funky bus fare. There's a double Dutch bus coming down the street.
What the fuck?
Get on the bus, pay your fare, then tell the driver that you're going to a double Dutch affair. 3, 5, 4, well I'll be gone. Here he comes, the double Dutch bus is on the street. You better get off the move your bus fare, trans pass. That's the way my money lasts. Ain't got no car to get around. When I go to work, I gotta go downtown. Now I miss my train, that's a double chain. When I'm running late, no sleeps to blame. If you got a wife, you know I'm right. You got a special man, well I can understand. Uptown, downtown, everybody's getting down. Say uptown, say downtown. Well, I miss my bus, I know I'm late. I gotta do something I know I hate. I'm gonna walk to work. 15 bucks, I already got a hole in the house. Go ahead and laugh. That's okay, cause what I really wanna say, I got bad feet, my corns hurt. Top it off, I think the word. Let me tell you what I say when I'm dealing with a funky sidewalk. Let me show you how I walk when I gotta do my funky walk. Let me tell you what I say when I'm dealing with a funky sidewalk. I say, sugar.
Is that jizzles? Yes, I hear that the mizzle is that the whiz a sizzle, the kids out and kids a biz ass bizzle.
I said what's up? And it's all say.
Yes, I biz out the mizzle.
I said what's up? We'll see and you'll man.
Shills, gills, bills out, news out, bills, baby.
We'll see hills are busy and just double digits. Just double digits. Just double digits. We'll see hills are busy and just double digits. Just double digits. Just double digits.
Music kills, I still some bills, I bills, I bills, I with bills, I.
Pilsen.
My kizzer.
We'll say good is it.
Is our kizzer.
It's always right.
Is our kizzer.
It's always right. This out. We'll see. We'll still see.
Double Dutch man, put on your skates, don't forget your rope, cause I know I'm gonna see you at my double Dutch show. Rebecca, Lolita, Fashawn, and Dawn, every time you do the double Dutch, you really turn it on. Bill Zarbra, Bill Harry, Bill Eddie, Bill Sam, Bill Tommy. Get on the Dutch bus.
The double Dutch bus.
Let me hear you say, do that. Let me hear you say, do that again. Let me hear you say, do. Let me hear you say, do.
He just got the new food yesterday, so it hasn't really done much. But he likes it, so that's good. Hold on, before it plays another song. Fuck. Okay. So sometimes dealing with the pee, but I think that's just like old age, or like really just need to invest in puppy pads and eventually diapers. I might get like reusable ones from the internet, but I'm going to be buying kid diapers here in a bit, and I do not feel like buying dog and kid diapers. So theoretically, hopefully, the food helps a lot more. And it's like an old man who's peeing his pants. Like, I don't want my dog to suffer at the same time, as much as I want to keep him alive and stuff. And people are like, he's young. Like, sometimes from what I've been told by multiple vets and multiple things that my best friend and me have looked up, it just doesn't, it can be very difficult on the animal. I know we had a cat that had it and she lasted for like a couple of years, but it was a lot of like not good moments, you know? So the end of the day, I just don't want him to suffer, if he's, sorry, there's a bug distracting me. Cesar Chavez is a predator. Who's Cesar Chavez? Like who the roads are named after, or like what? The American labor leader? Like, what are you talking about? Like, hold on. It says Cesar Chavez, civil rights icon, is accused of abusing girls for years. Well, they're all, anyone of any power anywhere is abusing children. And have you guys not read the Epstein files? You're not, like, let me make it clear. Anyone who has any clout of any sort of like stance in Hollywood, politics, and I'm assuming probably, it was an American labor leader and civil rights activist. So he was famous for what he did in the United States. They're all pedophiles and or abusing children for adrenochrome or eating them. The Epstein files, you really need to sit down and like read them and like do it in little chunks, because it's way worse on cats. They immediately stop peeing. Yeah, but I think it's easier on bigger animals. Like, I've heard that people with big dogs have like it's more successful. It's kind of like smaller dogs are kind of like in between dogs and cats. You know what I mean? So, but he liked it. He's doing better. Don't get me wrong. He's not anywhere near like his deathbed anymore like he was, but it's like one day will be like, most days will be good, and then he'll have one off day where I'm like, I feel like he's suffering and nothing has changed. We're just giving it twice a day, but hopefully the food will help with that. You know what I mean? And I think it's just, but that's anybody. That's anybody or any animal. Everyone has their down days. So for the most part, he's doing a lot better. He's got his spunk back. He's gaining weight. He's able to jump up on the bed and the couch now, like where he was getting like really weak. So yeah, he's like 75% doing better. So I'm hoping that this food helps, and it's even better than he likes it, because he like gobbled it down. Like usually with dry food, because he doesn't eat a lot of wet food, we only gave him wet food because the vet told us to. They were like, feed him pretty much. They said the main thing about it is he needs to gain weight, but it was like, but isn't he a diabetic? I know, like, but I don't know. Anyways, the vet's very nice and very helpful, but kind of dumb. Like some people, you just go to school for it. Not necessarily the smartest people always are the ones that pass the tests. Like sometimes the dumb people too do get the degrees too, I guess. I don't fucking know. I don't know. I'm trying to give her like, because she's helping him, but it's kind of like, it took forever to get it fucking prescribed too, but we finally got it yesterday. Like it came like within 24 hours. So Chewy's fast as fuck, dude. That's crazy. Modeling just basically recruit traffic. Yeah, especially if you're like it's a like modeling agency, like recruiting women outside of the US. The US, yeah, 100%. They have an interesting article on him. That woman came out, was abused at the age of 13, and they want to rename a street after him. Well, they have Cesar Chavez Boulevard in Portland for sure, and I'm pretty sure there's one in LA as well. I definitely know there's one in Portland because I used to take that was like my exit when there was like a lot of traffic. So it seems like they're gonna have to rename. But you said the New York Times, yeah, that's the one I was watching. Let me share it. So it says Anna remembers the day that the man she had regarded as her hero called her house and summoned her to see him. She walked along the dirt trail, entered the rundown building, passed his secretary, and stepped into his office. He locked the door, as he always did when he called her, and told her how lonely he had been. He brought her onto the yoga mat that he often used in his office for meditation, kissed her, and pulled her pants down. Don't tell anyone, he told her afterward. They'd get jealous. The man is Cesar Chavez, one of the most revered figures in the Latino civil rights movement. He was 45 and she was 13. The lady named Anna, I don't know how to say her last name, said she was summoned for sexual encounters with him dozens of times over the next 4 years. Recently, more than 50 years later, Anna learned that a street near her home in Central California city, Bakersfield, was in the process of being renamed. City officials want to name it in honor of her abuser. Well, why is she just now saying something? Like, I get it, like she was abused and maybe there's been just weird. And then another woman named Deborah says that Mr. Chavez sexually abused them for years when they were girls from around 1972 to 77. He was in his 40s, a become powerful, charismatic figure who captured global attention as a champion of farm worker rights. I just don't get the 70s. Like, it's an unfortunate time where, like, you just didn't talk about things. You didn't tell people that you were being abused. Like, even if you did, you didn't get a whole lot of help. It's kind of really tragic and sad, but also kind of like, why are you just saying something now? Like 40 years later. Because, I mean, if they said something then, they could have other girls for me. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I know other people, like, personally that have stories, and that's always in the back of my mind is like, I understand that it's like, it's better to speak up at some point, but if I was in a situation like that at 13, I don't give a fuck who it was. I would have said something, you know, like I would have went home and told my mom, hey, that Chavez dude, like I wouldn't even have put myself in that situation. I am questioning why they're just now saying something. It's disgraceful. Well, it's a question. It's my channel. It's a simple question. It's disgraceful that they were being abused, but why in the 70s did no one talk about it? That's the question, because it's not just these women. I know people in my personal life, they're abused in the 70s, and they just never said anything. I just don't get it. Like I said, in the 90s, if I were to go into an office with a grown man and he locked the door, I would have said something to somebody. What disgusting live. I mean, I don't care. That's your opinion. And my opinion is I don't have an opinion about it. I'm not questioning if it happened. I'm questioning why are they saying something 40 years later when there's been multiple streets named after this person. I understand that's probably triggering for her. Oh, yeah. because I'm a woman, I have the right to question why someone would wait 40 years. And I said, like I said, I also don't understand why people I know personally didn't say something. And it doesn't protect, because the general public doesn't say shit about kids being fucking fucked every day. We've got the whole Epstein files out. No one's making a noise about it. It's like people do not care when kids get abused sexually. It's like turn a blind eye. We know that the elites do it. We know that they do this. We know they do that. But let's not put it up roar. But like fucking Jen Bailey fucking eats blue cheese in her lasagna and everyone's live about it. I mean, do you understand the like confusion maybe a little bit? I mean, I'm confused about blue cheese and lasagna too. Don't get me wrong. Sophie said, "Cage or grave is a disgusting tone towards GB." Cage or grave? Cage or grave? What do you mean? Yeah, but again, this person is a public figure that he's had multiple streets named after him across the United States and probably in Mexico. So I'm just saying, like, it's just, these stories are kind of like, oh my God. But again, no one's giving a fuck that Donald Trump like was boinking 13-year-olds. He's still our president. I mean, or that Bill Clinton, our ex-president, was doing it, looking at the fucking Epstein files like they're a fucking picture book. They're like, oh yeah, I remember this time. Good times. Good, yeah. And no one does shit. It's a weird time for me that I just feel like it's weird. What does dilly roach mean? Hey, Mod148, what's up? How are you doing? Hope you're doing good. I mean, it's, again, I'm not questioning the validity of these people's stories and saying that this shouldn't have happened to them. But yeah, it seems like now there's a bunch of people coming forward about it. And as it should be. But why did it take like fucking 40 years to, I mean, maybe it's just the time of this shit coming out. It's like the Me Too movement, but better. I mean, he looks like a fucking creepo. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, he looked like a creepo before this story came out. And unfortunately, oh, that's her right there. She's like the one in the center. And she's marching with them. Oh my God. And the other one at 12. Jesus. And the real like travesty is of the times. Because like I said, it's not just this case. It's like pretty much anybody who was abused back then didn't say anything. And it's like, why were the times so different back then? You know, like why didn't people want their children telling them that they were sexually abused? And then, so weird. It's more questioning the times than it's questioning the people, because of the way the time was. It's kind of understandable why these girls didn't say anything. It's just, it would make them probably have more of a target on their back because they'd have to prove it. It's just like, it's kind of not really a question of why they did it. It's just, why did the times allow this to happen? And it's just now coming out 40 years later. That's more my question, rather than why didn't they personally say something. I think that's kind of understandable because of the way the times were. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was like, and still, like, I still have family members that, you know, there was a, like, an incident in my personal life. I won't say who it was, but there was someone in my family that didn't act correct. And a lot of people in my family were affected by this, including myself. And, you know, I had mentioned it to a family member, thinking that they remembered it. They did not. They didn't even remember that they were involved in it. And so it brought up a lot of trauma for them. I, of course, was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought you remembered. I thought we were sitting here talking about our own family traumas, you know, and this and that. I mean, literally everyone. There was a child in my house, in my family from like, I was the oldest. So I was probably like 13 or 12 to all the younger children. And, you know, it was someone who was my age. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, don't touch me, motherfucker. You're weird. I don't give a fuck. If we're not related by blood, you're still my cousin. Don't fucking touch me. You know what I mean? And, you know, they were younger, so they like suppress the memory, you know, so that happens a lot too. A lot of times you don't remember it. Exactly. Again, I'm not asking them personally why they didn't say something. I'm saying more like, why does it take 40 years? Why is the 70s, 80s such a silent era? It's like your parents didn't want to hear about it too. Like if you went and told someone, you were going to be 9 times out of 10, you were going to be the one that dealt with more than the person that did something wrong back then. You know what I mean? Because victims deal with things differently, or more women who were Epstein victims who will never speak up. Of course, there is. And I mean, you are being rude because you're coming in hot, but that's fine. But you have to understand that other people have the, like, I'm asking the question that other people are asking. I'm not being like a heartless, vindictive person. I mean, it's a common question to say, why did this take 40 years for this to come up? Why did those times have to be so horrible that no one could say anything, to where now they're in their 40s and 50s, they have to relive this? And it probably is because, like I said, the mind suppresses a lot. Your body deals with trauma in a lot of different ways. And blacking most of it out is a common way. But you, as you get older, I don't know if any of you have experienced it, but I know I have. You know, my mom used to talk about it when I was younger. And when she was hitting her 40s, you start to have flashbacks of things. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of answers to why it took 40 years. You know what I mean? It's a common question, but it's the wrong question. Well, you know what? You can be upgraded to being a silent viewer. Because this is my channel, and this is my opinion. And go back to critiquing the blue cheese and the lasagna. Thank you. You've made your point. Have a wonderful day. Jesus Christ. Anyways, Sister Chava is bad. If you get diddled, tell people. And it's understandable if you don't. But why the 70s and 80s were such a horrible time, I don't know. But here's something a little bit more relative, that's a little bit more recent, because recently Josh Duggar's brother, Joseph Duggar, was also arrested on charges of child SA. He's also an ex-19 Kids and Counting star, and is accused of a 9-year-old girl on Florida vacation. Jesus Christ. Wow. What the fuck happened to this family? And, you know, this is learned behavior. And that's my opinion as well. This is learned behavior. And there was something going on deeply wrong to these people as children, because this is not something that two brothers just miraculously start doing. You know what I mean? Probably decades and decades of family abuse that's been passed down. And in this day and age, it's coming to the forefront. So it's Joseph Garrett Duggar was arrested on Wednesday, alleging he essayed a 9-year-old girl years earlier. The former 19 Kids and Counting star was arrested on charges of the M-word essay of a victim less than 12 years old. This lascivious behavior conducted by a person 18 years or older. The victim is now 14 and told investigators during a forensic interview that the allegations happened while she was on vacation in Panama City. What is with Panama City? That's where like Epstein like had his house too, right? Beach in Florida with her family in 2020. During the vacation, the former reality star allegedly asked the girl to sit on his lap. Ew, that's what Josh used to do. Oh my God, those poor girls in that household too. God, you got to think like, right. Well, that makes, I mean, doesn't make sense, but that's unfortunate. You know what I mean? Like, because he's doing so good, you know, you got to, that's got to be very conflicting too. You're right, Cooch. Going back to like the Cesar Chavez girls, like they like liked what he stood for and he did a lot of good. So it's like, well, I guess I'll just turn a blind eye, you know, or I'll just let it go for now and hopefully, you know, so unfortunate. Yes, it definitely. Something's up with that father, that whole family. I think that one is the twin with Jana. I think so. It is still legal to marry your first cousin in Florida. Yeah, well, you can have children with your brother in Ohio. So there's that. Rhode Island and New Mexico. Sorry, I watched. I'm not Googling this or anything like, hey, what state's going to have like taking the brother thing with Chris way too far. I'm like, whoa, what states can you have kids with your brother? Even though he's not my brother and he never looked like my brother. That was a weird thing to say. But the reason I know that is I was watching Soft White Underbelly. And there was like a couple that had a baby and they were brother and sister, like direct brother and sister. And they were living in New Mexico. And then they said that like Rhode Island and Ohio were the only two other states that they could live in. I was like, I mean, that makes sense. Like, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. In Florida, I mean, almost anywhere in the United States, you can with your cousins, especially second cousins, and even that's too close for. Ugh. Thinking people, I don't know, they want to keep the bloodline strong. And then you end up with 10 toes. Well, not 10 toes is normal. So, like, what would it be? 12 toes? 17 toes? Like, ugh. I like it. And also, like, it's good to see, like, some of the. I traumatized myself recently watching, like, a Rebecca. I don't know if you know, then you know, but she was talking about, like, in OnlyFans. I was like, I can't watch this anymore. It's like too much mental health and mental illness with that one. And I like watching Rebecca and the whole. If you watch Soft Underbelly, there's like a transgender person named Rebecca, and he's also homeless in the streets of LA. And it's a whole thing. He runs around with this guy named Cosmo, also transgender female named Cosmo, and both of them aren't very, you know, they're transgender, but they're not like transitioned in any way other than dressing like women and believing they're women inside of them. Other than that, they look very masculine still, you know what I mean? So yeah, I feel for Rebecca. I'm on the fence about Mark. Like, I like what Mark does, but I think you have to be a certain kind of creep, though, at the same time to do that kind of stuff. Like, because not anyone's just going to walk up to, like, a prostitute on, like, Skid Row and be like, hey, can I do an interview with you for, like, $100? I mean, you have to be kind of skeevy, otherwise they're not going to trust you. You know what I mean? But then there's questionable things, like with the Nova stuff and her titties being out, and then, like, him finally, like, blurring them, but then putting up like the non-blurred version on his Patreon. It's like, okay, it's a 13-year-old girl. Like, what the fuck? I think it's more, yeah, like skeptical about him, but I like his stuff. Yeah. But I also think like I don't think like he's maybe not intentionally, but you have to think, you know what I mean? You have to, especially on YouTube, and like, I don't even know how I got away with that on YouTube. Like, because I guess it's educational, because I mean, that's what she's walking around fucking LA looking like. So he's trying to show us like real life, the real life things that we don't see or that you know of but you don't see. And 13-year-old selling herself out there. I mean, she's all over the internet, like selling herself basically. Like, it's such a bad, it's so sad. So fucking sad. When I worked in pediatrics, they used to see quite a few Amish kids. They had some real awful genetic problems. It was so sad to do that intentionally and bring the child into that with medical problems. I think that's, yeah. Yes. It's horrible. I mean, I guess I just don't think it's going to happen, but then it does. Like, you're like, oh, maybe my kid, it'll skip a generation. And like, I think it does a little bit because I know the people that were like brother and sister, maybe they were half brother and sister, but still, they're same mom or something like that. But their baby was totally normal. I mean, as of right now, I mean, who knows what they get older, what might happen, you know? Who knows? But I never, who's Apple? There's like, I only kind of knew of Mark, you know, from like the Whitakers. And then obviously I kept watching him. But then recently I started stumbling upon like the stuff, like the anti-Mark stuff. Like, I didn't realize it goes back years. It's like any YouTuber, like they have a past, you don't really know what it's about. But I was like, yeah, he definitely has some questionable behavior and questionable people. That one with the, is that the one that passed away? Yeah, BAG Investigates was covering her. I think so. Yeah, I saw her, like some infomercial was using a clip from her interview, and I was like, that's that girl that died. And I'm like, fucking AI commercials are fucking wild. But this is just disturbing. Goddamn, I don't like reading this stuff. 19 kids in counting star was arrested and charged. Asked the girl to sit on his lap, and then he asked her to sit next to him, covered both of them with a blanket. The sheriff told Officer Duggar manipulated the child's underwear and grazed her genitals and also rubbed his hand on her thighs. Jesus, and she was 9? What the fuck? What a weirdo family. Because it's like more girls than boys, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, they're sisters. Like, he's waiting extradition to Florida. Jesus. Then it goes in about Josh, who's, I guess it's like pretty equal. Girls to guys, but still. Anyways, fucking gross. Ugh. People are deranged one way or another. Like, that is so just disgusting. Oh, God. It's making, like, my stomach hurt. So I was covering Nancy on the one that got canceled or, like, ended abruptly. An ominous milestone, everything we know. Let's watch this and commentate on it. So Ashley Banfield. I like her. I think she has some good intel for sure. Some people like, you either love Ashley Banfield or you don't like her. I like her. So instead of talking about SA, let's move on to kidnapping of old ladies. The world is dark and sad, guys. It's dark and fucking sad. There's so many more things going on than Jen Bailey eating blue cheese in her lasagna, which I would have. Yeah, I think it's because she's allergic to blue cheese, but maybe you're allergic to ricotta too. Because ricotta is made a little differently, and obviously it's a soft cheese, so maybe allergic to soft cheeses. I don't know. I would get a panel done, Jen. I would also try to get your money back for that meal. Like, I don't know, just in case there was blue cheese. You know what I mean? Like moldy cheese. Like, fuck. Sometimes I don't fuck with Olive Garden. Not. It's not worth the free bread and salad. I don't think they even have endless bread and salad anymore, do they? It's not like it used to be.
Welcome, I'm Ashley.
Hold on.
This is Drop Dead Serious. Thank you so much for being here. And I already are. And if you already are, this Sunday, March 22nd, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm gonna do a big Q&A. Members,
let's talk about Nancy.
only
Man,
Q&A.
I solved the blue cheese case already. All right. If she is getting sued for Tommaso, it will be an interesting case. Because she got intel from the police, so she's gonna have to let her source be known. Probably. I don't like that Tommaso guy. I don't give a fuck. I don't like him. Like, I don't like how he yelled at Mark, like, who goes live out there as well. He like came out and was like, "What are you filming?" And it's like, "I'm filming your house, motherfucker, because your fucking mother-in-law is missing, and it's still a national story." That's what I would have fucking said. He was like, "Oh, I'm filming the street." And he said something like, "Get out of here," or something like that. I would have been like, "Oh, I'm parking here all fucking day with a fucking sign that says, 'Where the fuck is Nancy?'" Like, all right, I'll be back. Got my fucking billboard. Like, where the fuck is Nancy? Like, don't make us like, where's Christy Marie? Like, you need to call Bornholm Betty, get her out here, go start fucking Brian Laundry and the fucking. What? That was fucking stroke face. It was like, "Was always a blue cheese, Jen?" Like, dragging to one side. I reset all the wrenches, by the way, so I don't think I have any wrenches right now. So just, well, I got in trouble because I asked why people waited 40 years to report Cesar Chavez. And I think it's more of why did like the Times make it so they had to, you know what I mean? It came out wrong. I'm not questioning the victims. It's like, I didn't question and say like, "Oh, they must be lying about it because they waited 40 years. Like, no, I wasn't saying anything like that. I get that people like feel, it's a sad world that we live in. They had to wait 40 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's more about society than it was them personally for not doing these snipe streams. I don't know. Hold on a second. James, I'm glad I muted it because he cursed at the game. Listen up, please. Your question was a reasonable one. And one of the first questions asked generally. Yeah, I mean, it's just weird because there's a lot of fucking Cesar Chavez roads out there. It's like, I mean, they need to rename all of them, but it's not like a new thing. And I think there was, like I said, I'm pretty sure there's a Cesar Chavez Boulevard in downtown LA. So if you live in Bakersfield, there's no way you've never gone to downtown. Like, it just seems like a weird, it's more like the timing of the world. And why is it like, I mean, obviously now is the time of disclosure. It's been going on since Cat Williams said it was going to go on. Diddy got outed. We know all about the rap motherfuckers now and all these like dirty shit they were doing and probably are still doing. And, Diddy's just a fall guy. Fucking Jay-Z's way worse. And I mean, there's probably even worse than him. I mean, there's the people that did it to them, and and then we've got the Epstein files coming out as well. Yeah, I'm not judging them for not coming forward. I'm just saying, like, it's unfortunate that they had to wait 40 years. And that is more because of the times back then. They felt the need, and that's a very awkward position to be in too. Like, you love and like honor this person because they're doing so much for society, yet they're a fucking dirtbag, and that's a really unfortunate thing. But like I said, also the majority of people in any sort of political power or any sort of like famous politically or famous in any way are doing some nefarious ass shit, because it's pretty much a requirement, I think, to at least witness it at the very least. It's why a lot of these people have unalived themselves, either because they've been made to look like they unalived themselves because they were going to try to expose it. That happened with, like, allegedly, like, the singers from what's his name, Chester Benningfield, and what's the other one? Fucking God. I mean, a lot of people, Robin Williams. I mean, he might have actually been depressed, but a lot of them, it's been said, even Anne Heche, like, we saw what happened with her, and like, that's got a double whammy because she fucking was with Ellen. God knows what she has said, because the Epstein files, allegedly, she's been like rendered the most cannibalistic person out there in Hollywood. Well, Kurt Cobain, they finally fucking opened up, or I don't know what did it happen, but I heard they finally admitted that he didn't do it to himself. So yeah, no shit. But the Seattle PD fumbled that case to where they couldn't prove it. It's kind of like with the Nancy Guthrie case. They didn't lock it down. They didn't, secure the scene, and what's the most? But yeah, Daily Mail reported on February 10th of this year, testing Kurt's gun. Exclusive, Kurt Cobain's death was homicide. A shocking new forensic investigation questioned suicide ruling. His death shocked fans and sent ripples through the music world, but decades later, Kurt Cobain's final moments are under renewed scrutiny. The Nirvana lead singer died on April 5th of 94 at age 27 from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in Seattle home. At the time, King County Medical Examiner ruled it as a suicide. It was a Remington 20-gauge shotgun. Now an unofficial private sector team of forensic scientists have put fresh eyes on Cobain's autopsy and crime scene materials, bringing in Ryan Burnett, a specialist who previously worked on cases involving overdoses followed by gunshot trauma. Independent researcher Michelle Wilkins, who worked with, and they basically said, Burnett said, this is a homicide. We've got to do something about this. She said the conclusion followed an exhaustive review of autopsy findings, which revealed signs of inconsistent with the instantaneous gunshot death. Well, the gun was on the wrong side. He was like right-handed or left-handed, and the gun was on like the opposite hand that he was. Brittany Murphy. Yeah, she was taken out by Diddy or somebody, or something like that. That's a weird one. I don't know if it's a time for things to be exposed. I don't think anyone's being held accountable quite yet. Because again, we have a whole president who's, there's reports of him buying 13-year-olds or arranging to have 13-year-olds. And yep. Michael Jackson, Tupac, Freddie Mercury, Queen, Prince, Chester Bennington, Linkin Park, Chris Cornell. That was the one I was thinking. Mac Miller, yep. Etc. The Mac Miller might have been an actual overdose. Robin Williams might have been an actual like suicide because he was really depressed. Two seconds. Okay, sorry, kids going out. So how to did that stop? Okay. They're going swimming at their grandma's. I want to go swimming, but my pregnant ass don't have a bathing suit. So, and I know those people can go swimming in like t-shirt and shorts. Like it's just not comfortable. So, need to get me a maternity swimsuit. You know, what is with back in the day used to be like maternity stores and like maternity stores basically. I'm changing my shirt really quick. Where I won't turn the camera on. Like I will spare everyone. But my pregnant ass. So anyways, yeah, maternity stores are like not a thing anymore. They like closed a bunch of them, like motherhood and all of those are just gone. And I'm like, I mean, I don't want to waste a bunch of money on maternity clothes, but I also want a bathing suit where I don't have to like order it from like Shein or something. I swear this cold is never gonna go away. Oh, back to tube tops. I had like 2 months where I couldn't wear tube tops. Now we're back to tube tops. So, do they? There's also a used store here, and I figure we're in the desert. There's got to be some used bathing suits, but they're going now, so whatever. I'll go next time. Plus, I'd rather wait till my excuse me. Sorry. Do they? Oh yeah. I used to get I want to get leggings. That's where I used to get my leggings from. When I was pregnant with like Elton. Jamie I didn't really wear. I just wore a lot of dresses. So I didn't really wear maternity clothes. Which is where I'm heading because summer's coming. But yes. Yeah, but Target doesn't have any even. I was like, that's so weird. And they have like t-shirts and shorts, but they don't have like any bathing suits or anything. That's true. I don't know. Shin's got a little faster. Ford is another place. That's true. I have considered that. Plus, they're probably like transitional after it. Maternity swim? Can't you wear a two-piece? No. I'm trying to wear like my big old belt. Like I don't kudos to the women who just like wear the crop tops and let their belly hang out. I just don't feel comfortable. Like I like my belly to be secured. Like I don't want to just walk around with like a two-piece and my belly just out now. Mm-mm. I don't have the it's no. I didn't really even like two pieces when I was thin. Yeah, Amazon. I've kind of considered that. Things just that aren't instantaneous. I'm like, I want a bathing suit now. If I had ordered it last week, I'd already have it, but I'm an idiot. So there's that. Yeah, but I don't think they're going to get any like charges or anything. Look at that gun. There's no way you could shoot yourself with that gun. Unless you have fucking Slender Man arms or something. Like, what the fuck? Or you use your toe to fire it. That's crazy. He had so much heroin in his system, like he couldn't have picked up a fucking gun. I don't know. And then you go to like, what? Well, is it who they always thought it was? You know? Then we got to worry about Dave Grohl and fucking Courtney Love. Like, I don't really give a fuck about Courtney Love, but I do like me some Foo Fighters and shit. It's like, I'm not liking the fact that I gained weight. William just said, in front of the mirror. Okay, I don't know why her shit's so blurry, but back to Ashley Banfield.
Everyone to be patient. Here they got him. You know, behind the scenes, police are as close as they were on day 46 before they got Brian Koberger. Because I remember that day 46 was my birthday in Brian Koberger. And I felt like that trail had gone cold only the next day to hear they got him. They got a guy. So let's just hope that right now, here on our own day 47 in the Nancy Guthrie investigation, there may be actually something behind the scenes that we know nothing about.
I don't think there is. I think that sheriff fucked it all up and they don't have any clue. Like if they had worked with the FBI and had it over, maybe, but even they went like door to door. There's got to be something more because they were looking for cars. They're looking for, but I don't. In this day and age, there's cameras on every single house that I've ever delivered to, from rich to not rich. Like I said, even some of the smallest, most rundown houses out here have cameras on their front porches. So how they don't have any sort of camera footage of a car coming and going out of that neighborhood from the street cameras, like on either Campbell or fucking Orange Grove, like how is there not? There's not that much activity at that time of night. So it's like they have to have something. If they don't, then the rich people need to invest in more cameras out there, because if it would have happened somewhere down, central or south Tucson or even eastern Tucson, or anywhere besides the Catalinas, there would have been evidence of it because there's just so many businesses and stuff. Hello again. Nanos is a hack job. Yeah, supposedly there is a petition out here that we can go sign. If I can find out where it's at, I'll go and sign it. Yeah, everyone has cameras. There's not one apartment. I mean, there's probably an apartment here and there, but for the most part, when I deliver, like every house has cameras. So it's like, and even and like the reporters are like zooming out and they're like, oh, these houses are so far apart. It's like, no, they weren't. Like her neighbor to the left, their house is like right up on her back wall. The neighbor on the right, there's not that much distance. It's like something's weird about the case, in my opinion. And I don't think anyone's ever going to know what happened because it's something funky.
Because the sense of hopelessness is real. Don't say cold, because cold means there are no more leads to chase down. And they had 40,000 at last count, right? Loads of tips. So have hope. You know, Savannah said it enough in her videos that you've got to pray and you've got to have hope. And that's all we can have right now as we go past this Rubicon of day 47, which was my barometer.
Yeah, but Savannah also said, talk to her, get to know her. She's this. She basically quoted a quote from Silence of the Lambs. So it's like, I don't know. Something about this, something about her rubs me the wrong way. It's like, did you like, because again, all the Epstein stuff was coming out. She's in there, her husband's in there. Her husband was, worked with the Clintons their entire time in administration as a fucking scrubber, essentially scrubbing the internet of anything they didn't want on the internet. Was this a ploy to say, keep your mouth shut just because the shit's coming out? Don't think that you can start talking. That's what makes sense to me. The other option is that it was a botched robbery for the house next door. That was a doctor who's involved in the gem show, because it was at the height of the gem show. Because it doesn't make sense unless it's something nefarious like that, why they would just come and bonk her over the head and take her in the middle of the night. Yeah, the timing points to distraction and or blackmail. She did do an interview with the victims. Yeah, she interviewed the victims, multiple of them, which means, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more that she knows that she didn't put out there, and it's being, all this stuff's coming out to light. It's like, is this a message to her and others, like her and her husband, like, just because the shit's coming to light, don't think that you're safe to tell people things that haven't told people. We'll just take your mom in the middle of the fucking night. Because if it was for ransom, don't you think they would have like shown proof of life and gotten their money? Like, there's no reason, unless they accidentally killed her and they couldn't show proof of life. Because maybe they didn't know she was on blood thinners and she bled to death. And something that normally someone wouldn't bleed to death from, like being pistol whipped or something. It's really unfortunate. But that's what I think. Watching Ashley Banfield, not this episode, but the previous one from day 45, it's theorized that the DNA evidence inside the home was probably more blood droplets like what was outside. And that just looks like someone being carried and it just dripping. I don't think she was walked out of there. And then she probably passed because she's on blood thinners and they didn't realize it, and she bled to death from something that normally someone wouldn't bleed to death from, like a head wound from being pistol whipped or something. It's unfortunate, but I think that's the only thing that makes sense, is that it wasn't meant to kill her and she accidentally died. So they don't have a way to prove a life. So there's not as much of this, like, obviously there was like these Bitcoins and these letters coming in. They could have been legit, but the only thing that wasn't legit about them is they didn't show proof of life. Let's see.
with regard to the Idaho case. So what I decided to do today, because a lot of people I run into ask me questions like, what's the latest in the Nancy Guthrie investigation? Did they ever find the guy? And whatever happened to? And I have found that not everybody has the full picture. Some people were really,
Oh, that's what I wanted to
dedicated to
show.
following the case in the first week or 3 weeks or 5 weeks. And now we're going into like 7, and so I put together a full recap, everything from the beginning, everything that's happened so far in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie in this case. You may know some of it. You may know a lot of it. You may not know all of it. And so today at day 47, I decided it's time just to put the whole case together so that you can get up to speed, because I'm hoping that once you have this behind you, when that arrest comes, you'll know all of it. And when they start dumping out information in those affidavits, right? The search warrants, the arrest affidavits, you'll say, oh yeah, I remember that from day 5, right? So full recap here. You probably remember this. Nancy Guthrie was 84 years old.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of person in the business of true crime we call a vulnerable person, right? Nancy's the mom of the Today Show host, Savannah Guthrie, who's been off the air ever since this happened. This case now at day 47, we are about to enter week 8 after this weekend, right? We'll head into the 8th week of this case, which means the story's been unfolding for nearly 2 months. And the deeper it goes, the stranger
Well,
it seemed to get. What began as just a desperate search, right?
started as a
Missing
desperate
elderly
search.
woman,
They searched for
quickly
all like 32 hours, not even 48. So it wasn't really a desperate search. It seemed like it, but no one was searching. And I guess they said that the reason why they stopped searching is because the terrain is so difficult out here that, they can't have dogs going out there and getting their paws. Like, there are shoes that you can put on dogs to protect their feet. Like, I'm sure the canine department and the police department can figure that out, right? You'd think. Maybe not out here with Sheriff Nanos running shit, but what typically would happen in the terrain out here is that you would go out on a 4-wheeler to look. You wouldn't walk. You would go in. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I understand maybe not foot searches, but like, I mean, at least 1 out of 4 people in the city of Tucson owns a 4Runner to go into the desert. Like, you could ask the general public, hey, do you have a 4-wheeler? Let's like do a search, No ground should you have to be in like 4 wheels because it is a rough terrain out here. And they were saying it's different than other desert. I don't know what other desert isn't rough terrain. What the fuck? Different than the California desert. Not really. More Sororos, I guess, but I don't know.
thing. Well,
Seems
actually
like
way more
bullshit
ominous,
to me.
right? Investigators treating Nancy Guthrie's home as a crime scene, really from the very first hour. Since then, we've seen
Okay, I would hope so. There's blood outside.
alleged ransom demands. We've seen a
Right.
fake extortionist, a guy who was charged in federal court with that charge, with that count, alleged to have been doing this, right? A family put under a police microscope. Dramatic FBI video images that were released of a suspect in a terrifying balaclava at Nancy's front door.
Mm.
DNA inside Nancy's own
Exactly.
DNA. They don't know. They said it's male DNA that isn't in her circle, but it's tricky.
I could just watch this because, I mean, there's a lot of pokey stuff out there. Don't get me wrong. There is. But if you're searching for an 84-year-old lady, you'd think you would find some sort of precautions. Like, yeah, maybe not go on foot with dogs. But maybe go out and some, I don't know. It just seems that they didn't search very hard. You know what I mean? It seems like from jump, it was like, oh shit, how are we going to handle this? This lady was taken. There's blood on the scene. It's probably a homicide. Probably assuming they're not going to find her. How do we handle this? It's just from the get-go. It's how do we handle this, not how do we find her? And that's why the FBI should have taken over. Oh, shit. Wrong window. Clicking up. That was a funny
Trying to
face
work
she was
with it.
making.
And they're not getting far. And they got stopped at CODIS, the national database. It couldn't be loaded in there because it's just partial sample, but they're still working on it.
Yeah.
We've seen
Just because they couldn't get it from CODIS doesn't mean that. I mean, there's a lot of avenues and a lot of them take a lot longer. This could take a year because some testing can take up to a year. with DNA and stuff. So, just because there's not anything coming out right now doesn't mean that they might not eventually figure out who at least did it. I don't think they're ever going to find her. We're too close to Mexico. It's just getting rid of a person's a lot easier when you're right next to Mexico. And I'm not trying to be, it's just there's a lot of more options than if, say, you were like in Ohio. Like, you can't just, I mean, they get rid of, everyone goes missing from everywhere. I mean, there's like, how many missing people in America right now? The U.S. from 2026 alone. How many missing people in the U.S. from 2026 alone? Jesus. Approximately 600,000 people are reported missing in the U.S. annually. Again, I think it's like something like 85% of those people are usually found. But even 15% of fucking 600,000, that's a lot of fucking people that just disappear in this fucking country. And I think that I think that happens in the US more than anywhere else in the world. People just go, boop, like.
Locations that have been tested and retested. We've seen SWAT raids. We've seen gun stores being canvassed. Gun store workers being asked questions, look at these pictures and these names, put them into your list, see if did they buy a gun here? And we've seen a lot more than that too. So let me walk you through where the case started, where it's going.
OnlyFans or someone out there with leather chaps on taking pictures. I mean, there's been a lot. Karen's out there calling cops on the fucking streamers. Ordinances being passed so that media couldn't park on the street. Like, why did they close it down to media? That was keeping that neighborhood safe and eyes on, even if there's nothing. I mean, even like, what did I go out there? Like it was like the following week I went out there, right? With Christy, it was like that following Monday. So it was day 8, I would say, of her missing. And even then I was kind of like, that was the first day that there was like a lot of media. And I'm like, why are they here? You know what I mean? And I get like they're reporting from outside of there, but I mean, there's a lot of things that happened, but a lot of it, was it? I don't know. There's at a point I'm like, are they like waiting for her to arrive? Like, what are they waiting for? But now it's like, well, at least them being there kept the neighborhood safe. Now I don't even want to drive in that neighborhood. Like, I ain't trying to get Nancy Guthrie. Like, shit.
And let's start right from the beginning. January 31st, the night of January 31st. Nancy Guthrie goes to dinner at her daughter and her son-in-law's house, and she takes an Uber at 5:32 p.m. And she has dinner in the sheriff
commercial. If you want to be like Serena Williams and lose a bunch of weight, take a shot every week. Okay.
But then she gets a ride back home. She doesn't take an Uber back home. She gets a ride. The Pima County Sheriff, a man named Chris Nanos, which is, a name that's pretty much a household name by now, first said that Nancy's daughter, Annie, brought her home. And then he told the New York Times that Nancy's son-in-law, Tommaso, brought her home. And then he told
we'll just say family.
Annie and Tommaso brought her home. And then publicly he decided to just change all of that and say, let's just leave it at family. So family dropped Nancy back at her home. And at 9:48.
It's like, what? And I guess it's probably he was stumbling because he doesn't want. Supposedly, he's not this quiet-spoken, like, idiot, soft person. Supposedly, he's like a dick, which makes sense because this whole city is full of dick sheriffs. So.
PM, he said that her garage door opened, and then at 9:50 p.m., 2 minutes later, that garage door closed, and the sheriff said presumably at that point, Nancy Guthrie would be getting ready for bed and going off to sleep. But nearly 4 hours later, 1:47 a.m., now it is February 1st. The doorbell camera disconnected. Now, do I know if it's the front doorbell camera? I don't know that. Do I even know that it's a doorbell camera? I don't. It was just camera disconnected at 1:47 a.m., which would make you wonder which one. because maybe she has plenty, right? 2:12 a.m., software detected a person on camera, but there was no actual video available. Well, that's very confusing. And then we look.
Yeah, that's my city sheriff. Yes, my county sheriff. Yes. The sheriffs are useless. Like, there's not anything that they can do out here unless, I guess, when it comes to this, they can. But I know when I was dealing with my kids in like custody, the sheriffs were like, "You need to call the police. Like, we have nothing to do with this." They seemed really, really useless. So I'm not surprised that they were useless in this case either.
This timeline, and we all thought that's just very confusing. Then at 2:28 a.m., something a lot less confusing. Nancy's pacemaker app showed a disconnect from her phone, presumably the time when she is disconnected from her phone and maybe even from her home. Quick note from my sponsor. Let's be honest, being on camera as much as I am, that time at the beginning was a mess, right? It was like an hour earlier, the sheriff told us. And then everybody wondered, now, why is the family in that home for an hour before calling 911? Well, they settled on 11:56 a.m. Family members come to check. And then 12:03 p.m., 7 minutes later, they call 911. So that.
First of all, 7 minutes isn't a lot of time. An hour is too much time. So I think it's somewhere in the middle of that. Because I don't think you could, like, really in that house, like, you know, she could have fallen over outside or she could have been in another part of, like, 7 minutes seems fast, but that's so where they settle on it. So it's like, why don't you just say the facts? Why do you have to, like, I don't understand why the police have been hemming and hawing so much. Like, it was this family member that dropped her off. Just say which family member dropped her off. If it was the daughter, then it was the daughter. And, you know, I was talking on Deadlies yesterday with Berlinetta, and I was like, why does the suspect to me and other people in the beginning said that this, you know, masked person gave them female vibes? And it has always, to me, given me some sort of female vibe. It's the eyes, Berlinetta said, and I agreed. And then I am looking, and she said something about it looks like they're wearing some sort of like a mask, like a male mask, you know, to make it look like a guy, but it's really a girl underneath the other mask. And these pictures are not easy. Hold on. But if you look at this close enough, it almost looks like there is like a latex where this eye is. It doesn't look like, they look like fake eyebrows because I think they are. I think it's a mask, like a fake mustache and fake. And this is a woman underneath this, because just something about those eyes. And not only do they look like female eyes, they look like her daughter's eyes. So I don't know. I was like, I'm like a weirdo over here taking pictures of Annie Guthrie and like looking at her eyes. And I'm like, no, it looks like her eyes. Like, I'm not an expert by any means, but it does. And I'm like, you can almost see the contrast from the real eyes to the skin above the eyes is almost a different color, like it is a mask. Underneath the mask, like a silicone mask underneath the mask. And here, I know sometimes when I click around, the audio doesn't always transfer, so.
That makes a lot more sense. You get there, mom, where are you? You see things, you wonder, what the hell is this? I'll get to what they saw.
I mean, blood, but 7 minutes is quick. I mean, it's not that quick, so I guess 7 minutes, call 911. But it was like, at least for the first week, it took them an hour. They're like, oh, well, we'll settle on it. It was only 7 minutes. What do you mean? How long did it fucking take?
They run outside. They wonder if she's in the backyard. Has she fallen? Is she out in the front street? Is she somewhere? And within 7 minutes, 911 help. So a police patrol arrives, 13 minutes later, 12 minutes later at 12:15 p.m. Okay. From the beginning, law enforcement made very clear that they did not believe this was a case of an elderly woman just, wandering off. Nancy's purse was still inside the house. Nancy's wallet was still inside the house. Nancy's cell phone was still inside the house. Nancy's vehicle was still inside the garage. And the sheriff assured everybody that this was not a woman who didn't have her wits about her. They said she was as sharp as a tack, right? She was not somebody suffering from any kind of cognitive decline.
And I would like to say is like I understand that, right? But we have all dealt with, and maybe you haven't, but I've had a few, not a lot, because obviously most of my family dies young, but I've had a few relatives that were, lived to their 80s. And it's like a switch. It goes from being completely cognitive and like functioning, even if they have limitations, to they can have an episode where they're just something happens, and who's to say she didn't just wander off? I mean, now obviously with like I don't think they even know for sure if the pictures I was just looking at from the surveillance are from that night. It could have been from like January 11th or something. And it's like, again, how the fuck do you not know? And why can't you just state the facts? I think the general public needs to know a little bit, because we're especially living out here. It's like, I lock my doors and all, but they're not like fucking like, they're not steel or anything. Like, who the fuck's just snatching people up out of the night? Like, I'm like, we need to get the fuck out of here. Like, we need to move a different county over or something. Like, I'm going to Santa Cruz. Like, fuck this shit. Like, I'm not trying to I don't care if I'm at 84. I'm like laying up some nights, like unable to sleep. And I'm just like, someone just walked by my window. Like, but I'm in an apartment building. So it's a little different, but still. What the fuck you doing now? Did you take Nancy Guthrie? Like,
and then he added something else, gave you the physical picture of Nancy Guthrie, and said that she wasn't in the best health. She could not walk more than about 50 yards on her own. And then he brought down the hammer and said she needed very important medications, and that without those medications, it could be fatal. 24 hours without those medications, and it could be fatal for Nancy Guthrie. So now she is separated from her home, her medications, and the clock is ticking. So search and rescue efforts launched really hard and fast. First, there were like canines and helicopters and drones and ground crews, and there were deputies everywhere. But almost as quickly as the search effort started, that search came to a grinding halt on day 2. Day 2, the Monday after the Sunday disappearance. The sheriff said,
serious dictation was driving me crazy, so I switched.
This was no longer primarily a search mission. He basically drew down on the search, said that part was kind of over, and instead called this a crime scene. He said that the air assets, the searchers, they would all step aside unless they were needed again. Made a lot of us look askance. We were thinking, what? It's been like 30 hours since the report to 911. Like,
and it's just,
that's pretty quick.
Yes.
To be calling off a search, right? Even if there's a crime scene, like there still might be something around the house, or out in the back in the desert brush, or down the road, or I don't know, in some of those drainage culverts or washes as they call them in Arizona. Yep. Nope. Sheriff seemed to know something we didn't know. The decision has haunted this case ever since. A couple reasons why. First and foremost, the sheriff, well, I don't know, a week or two later would say, yeah, maybe that wasn't what I should have done. I'll sort on that one. My bad. My words, but effectively his message was, okay, maybe I made a mistake there. Releasing the crime scene, calling off that search, doing that also early, maybe that's on me, right? But also it signaled that the investigators saw something inside the house that pushed them away from a rescue mindset and towards something a lot more sinister. They weren't telling us, but they knew something. Curiously, at the same time, the sheriff also publicly stated that roughly 30 hours after Nancy disappeared, there was no immediate danger to the community. Nothing for any of the neighbors to be concerned about.
Now he thinks that person could strike again. It's like, well, that's great. Should have maybe said, like, we're not sure. Like, I don't know. I'll sign that petition. We need to find out where the fuck you signed the petition.
That message is a hell of a cry from where the sheriff is today. 7+ weeks since this whole tragedy began. That really changed. I will get to that. Everything in line. The first major details about evidence in this case came out during the sheriff's second press conference on day 5. And Sheriff Nanos confirmed that blood droplets that we had seen outside of Nancy's front entrance, and we'd only seen them because Brian Enton was able to walk up to the house because the sheriff released that scene on Monday and videotaped
So
blood droplets
crazy.
at her front door. We didn't know whose blood, but the sheriff at
I
the
remember
press
that's when I
conference
was
on-
like, should I go down there and film it? Like, and I was like, I don't want to go. I'm not Brian Enton. I'm not trying to fucking go down there and put my DNA up on this fucking porch. You know, and also they got the plants on the ground. No one's really mentioned how they got the plants on the ground, and that's what he was trying to cover the camera with. But it just seems so weirdly, oddly like it does. Well, it doesn't appear. It seems oddly like this isn't where they went in, because he tried to put the plants up there. It didn't happen. So is it where they came out? But it doesn't. It just doesn't look like where the plants are was disturbed at all. You know, if they were dragging a person out of there, don't you think some of those like plants they was trying to put on top of the camera that are on the ground right there would have been moved around a little bit more? I don't know. It seems like they just threw a handful of fucking plants there and was like, oh, and here's some blood. I don't know, it just seems so fake to me. It seems like a false flag. I'm not trying to say like she's not a real person. And I hope it is a false flag and she's sitting with Tupac at some fucking weird island where they're drinking mojitos or some shit, you know, and she's just going to live out her next 10 years on the island. They're like, sorry, but we had to use you to cover up some shit, you know, like you got trumped. You know, it's weird. You look at all the houses around there that are for sale and like their upkeep was, it looked like just another vacant house. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm probably wrong.
Thursday, day 5 confirmed that was Nancy's blood. Brian Enton wasn't the only person who saw those blood droplets. Michael Ruiz from Fox Digital also spotted that blood trail right after the sheriff released the home as a crime scene. The sheriff would also eventually say other biological samples had been collected and were being processed. And sources told me on day 3, 2 days before that second press conference, day 3, Tuesday, that at this scene, the back door had been left wide open, that there were signs of forced entry. The sheriff would not publicly confirm that. And that same high-level law enforcement source told me that there were multiple Nest cameras that had been smashed, that there was blood found inside the home, and that police had turned their attention towards Nancy's son-in-law as a suspect. And that same source also told me on day 3 that
I think they definitely, if they did use the back door or the front door, like, I think they went in the back. Like, I think they attempted to go in the front. They put those bushes onto the camera, and then they bounced out of that area because there was a camera. And they went around the back, and that's how they got in. And then I think maybe they just had her, like, over their fucking shoulder and went back over there and just snatched off the camera or something, and that's how the blood got there. But it doesn't look like anyone came out that front door or went in that front door. Just with the way that the plants are like just right there where, you know, if that's what they're trying to cover the camera with and they just got on the floor, you would think they wouldn't just be sitting there.
police had towed the car belonging to that man's wife, Nancy's daughter, and that the car was, quote, in evidence. On day 5, the sheriff confirmed that the car had indeed been towed, adding that it had been processed under a warrant. And while he refused to confirm which door may have been used to gain entry to Nancy's home, he did confirm that investigators did not have the front doorbell camera, that it was, quote, not in their possession. And we would eventually learn that the camera was indeed a Nest cam, one among multiple Nest cams at Nancy's home.
What is a Nest
Also on day
cam?
5, the sheriff refused to rule anyone out
Nest cam.
in their investigation. In fact, the sheriff said everybody had to be looked at. The Uber driver, the gardener, the pool person, everybody. He emphasized that the family had been cooperative, but again, he stopped short of a sweeping, edict that everybody had been, or that anybody had been, swept off the table in those first days and, in fact, first weeks. Behind the scenes, a so-called ransom letter was sent on day 3 to the national media outlet TMZ and also to 2 local TV stations in Tucson. They also received copies. And that
I'm looking at these Nest cams over here, and just for a minute to show you. I mean, these are like industrial cams. These aren't Ring doorbells. You know what I mean? They're not Ring doorbells. This is a camera that's just sitting there on the door. You're paying $100 per camera to $150 per camera. And I mean, they come with floodlights. You should have fucking had those. But you're paying that much for a camera and you're not paying for the service so that your stuff's being recorded where you can access it. That's weird. That's really, really weird and really like not responsible at all. Like, what's the point of even having the camera? You know? I thought it was just like a little Ring doorbell, but this is like an industrial camera. Like, it doesn't make sense why you would buy something like that and not pay the monthly service.
Ransom letter demanded $4 million in cryptocurrency with a threat that if that amount wasn't received on a deadline, it would rise to $6 million after the deadline passed. So police said that one ransom communication contained details that appeared to match some of the known facts in the case, like references to things like an Apple Watch, where the Apple Watch was located in the room and in the house, and also a floodlight that was smashed. They took it seriously because of those things, and I know what you're thinking. A lot of the videos show that the floodlight was smashed, right? And a lot of us keep our Apple Watches, on our bedside table. So was that really such a good reference? Was that really so critical? Was that really something that should lead us to take those?
Well, there's also a special, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but because of her being like an anchor for this Today Show, whatever she's on, they did this like going home episode, and it showed the house, it showed the restaurants they like to go to. And then another time it was like during an episode of that show, and they like, I'm gonna turn it over to my mom, says Savannah, and it goes to Nancy. And it was I don't know, whatever the segment was about, but Nancy's standing in her bedroom. So for all we know, her charger for her Apple Watch should be like, if it's like me, I have like a wireless like pad thing where I put my charger, like I can wirelessly charge my phone and put my Apple Watch on. So you see one of those sitting on the end table. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really examined that video to see if that's, but they very well could have like got the layout of the room from that. And I mean, was Annie supposed to be paying the bill for the camera service? Mm-hmm. Right? I understand. Yeah. I mean, she's physically has disabilities and she's obviously on blood thinners. So she's, she's not the healthiest, even though she's got her wits about her. She's still, to live alone. And I mean, I know a lot of older people in their 80s. Again, my great grandma was the same way. Like she wanted to live at home and she didn't want a lot of help. And it's like, you kind of have to like force it upon them. But she had a pacemaker, right? A pacemaker, like, I know her dog passed away in December, but even more so, wouldn't you think that would prompt you to get like an alarm system? Like, okay, well, mom had a dog. Now she doesn't have a dog. Maybe we should get her another dog, or maybe we should get her an alarm system. And maybe that's why they got the cameras. Like, okay, well, your dog's passed away now, so let's get you some cameras. Maybe they were just new and that's why they didn't have service. I don't know. I think it's just being comfortable. She's lived there since the 70s. You just get, honestly, there's not a lot of crime up in the Catalinas like you wouldn't think. I mean, you should think, especially now that this has been, that area has been on the national news so much and everyone knows now it's a super dark neighborhood, like kind of opened up Tucson for like getting more crime, because it's like, well, that's the place to fucking go. The dark at night, you can't see jack shit. Like, no one pays their camera bills. Like, all the Chihuahuas are elderly, wearing diapers and doing shit. Like, it's just like, you can't find a Chihuahua diaper to save your life here. It's fucking crazy. I was like, how many Chihuahuas are pissing on shit in Tucson?
Ransom letters seriously? Well, they did.
A
FBI
lot.
and local law enforcement alike.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. And it's a critical
And
part.
it's just unfortunate. I'm sure they just felt safe. She lives here since the 70s. Not trying to blame anyone. It's just, this is a very good example of why you got to have, something, a gun by the side of your bed, something. I mean, that might not have saved her at 84. I don't know if you can, that might have been more danger than anything, but she should have had it all. She should have had she should have been armed. Maybe a small gun. She should have had an alarm system. She should have, she had a dog, but it passed away. But that's just another layer of security. I mean, if she even had a chihuahua, like, I don't think anyone's going to jump over the fence if you hear a dog barking. I mean, again, that's not always the case, but so unfortunate. And it's a very good example of why you should have those things. And then, if you have like an elderly person in your family that it is very self-sufficient, like maybe it's, it'll save some other people's lives, even though it didn't save Nancy's because she didn't have those things.
No proof of life.
None.
There was no established communication protocol. There was no continued verified contact after that.
I think she's dead.
Letter came in. But later, more.
I think they would have robbed her and left and whatever they did to her, it killed her. And they knew that she wasn't going to survive. So that's why they took her. That's what it reads to me. It was like a botched robbery. There's been rumors that either the FBI or the sheriffs had that theory, like it was a running theory. And they're like, no, it's not. But honestly, that's why I think they went to the wrong house. I think they were supposed to hit the house next door with all the gems. They come across an old lady who's clearly independent. Who's to say she didn't have? We don't know. Maybe she was armed and she tried to pull out a weapon, and that's when they got her. We don't know. So unfortunately, I don't think that she was alive coming out of that house. And I don't. That's why. Otherwise, they would have shown proof of life or something.
Surfaced. Seemed a little different, but they included one that demanded a single Bitcoin, which amounts to about tens of thousands of dollars. And still
60,
later,
70.
More communications, swapping out the kind of cryptocurrency being demanded, right? Kind of sounded like people were just piling on, scammers from overseas, the ones that have I don't know, millions of dollars that a Nigerian prince wants to give you. We just need your bank account number.
Nah.
In the middle of all that chaos, federal prosecutors made a big announcement. They charged a man in California, a guy named Derek Kalela, however you pronounce Derek's name. Derek's in a heap of trouble. They accused him of sending fake ransom.
So now this Derek guy from LA with the ransom, there is weird connections, and there's a channel called Mab Investigates, and he mods for Dolly Vision, and he's kind of mentioned it in Dolly's. I've never actually gone and watched his channels where he goes over these theories of his or these connections he has found. But that guy was kind of he was like punk rock looking, and supposedly he had some ties to this S&M community, as did that girl who was outside of the house, the one that was wearing the leather shorts and the skimpy top. And they said she was filmed, she was going to start doing true crime, but she had an OnlyFans or some shit like that. And people were really critical over being out there. I mean, it's a free world. She wasn't taking naked photos, but it's still weird. But I mean, there's a lot of fetishy, weird shit. And it does kind of Tucson's known for having a lot of swingers. They have a whole swingers convention in the summer or the end of summer. I don't know exactly what it is, but I've seen, the last couple of years, I've seen signs up for it. I've read on Reddit where people are is there any normal, single people here that aren't polyamorous? On the Reddit, on the Tucson Reddit page, I've seen people ask that. So I know that Tucson's got a lot of freaks in it as far as, what they're into. And let your freak fly. I'm all for kink. I'm all for it. I'm yeah, I'm kind of woohoo, my city. So I guess it's probably, not a weirdness that Luke guy, I think who was tied to him, there's some girl that was tied to him that was also I don't know, Kayla or something like that. Again, I'm not up to date with all these side characters. It's just a lot. And I wish I could be, but I'm just not. But she somehow is loosely tied to this S&M community. So, there might be more connection than people know. I don't know. But it's weird. nonetheless. Two Sons of Weird Place.
Communications to the Guthrie family.
And I like that it is weird. I'm not judging it in any way, shape, or form.
And to profit from their agony. This was one of the first concrete arrests connected to the case, but not because he had Nancy, because according to investigators, he was a fraud. Just a fraud. That case is coming up. You wait. Hope they have cameras in that courtroom, but it's federal, so they won't. So we'll just have to get a sketch artist. If it ever gets to court, because this one I could really see being a settlement. Publicly, law enforcement never said that they believed those messages were authentic.
No.
Even though in one of Savannah Guthrie's Instagram videos, she told the alleged ransom seeker that she would pay, but she wanted proof. And that
she also said, we understand now and we're willing to work with you, or something like that. And that's when it clicked to me, like, you understand what? What is it you understand? Keep your mouth shut? That this is what can happen? Because I don't think it was just to show them, if that's the case and this was some sort of weird keep your mouth shut or we'll take your mama, and that goes for Savannah Guthrie and anyone who knows anything that wants to start talking about these Epstein files, blah, 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 do something about it, because she's a lawyer. She's in media. She's already interviewed she'd be the most likely person out there, Savannah Guthrie, to start talking about more Epstein stuff. So what's to say this wasn't a big, they're like, we understand, we'll keep her mouth shut. And they're like, yeah, well, she's not alive anymore, sorry.
Proof never came. As the investigation continued, Nancy's security cameras, those quickly became the biggest mysteries in this case. Early on, the language was all over the place. There were questions about whether the cameras had been removed or disconnected or smashed or tampered with or taken, right? Sheriff said the cameras were, quote, removed, said the timeline reflected they were disconnected, but that over time, investigators would try to recover whatever residual imagery they could from those systems, given that Nancy did not have a subscription to a service that would save her Nest Cam videos.
Why?
And then later, he came out to say, can't do it. We went to the providers. They can't do it. So sadly, there'll be nothing. We won't get any video. Well, watch this space. In a moment, you'll find out why that was wrong and why we got what we got. By Feb 5, law enforcement was openly acknowledging that investigators were digging into a series of digital trails. They were looking at social media, bank activity, phone activity. They were canvassing for surveillance footage all over the place, like going out 2 miles. FBI agents visited a Chevron and a Circle K, those establishments located between Nancy's home and her daughter Annie's home. But that same day, the sheriff said no suspect had been identified, that no one had been ruled out, and that the family remained cooperative. And still, late at night,
planning a wedding is meetup with
investigators went in to Nancy Guthrie's daughter's home, Annie and Tommaso's home. And as reporters were outside wondering what in the dickens they were doing in there in the dark, they saw flashbulbs going off, photographs being taken for 3 hours. They saw packages.
Those flashes, that's like forensic photography. They don't have flashes like that for just regular pictures. Like when they were at the Idaho 4 house, I'm sure there was cameras like that, but a lot of it was just digital photos taken too. So that's usually when they bring in the forensic photographer. So what the, like, people have said they've speculated that they were taking photos of like documents, like maybe like the wills and stuff like that, and to see what, I don't know. It's very weird that they were taking photos like this and then it's just like, oh, well, they're cleared. I think they very much had their eyes on them and it wasn't them. And then they kind of let whoever did do this kind of get away.
Out of the home and put into a law enforcement vehicle. Mail being taken out of the daughter's mailbox, put into an envelope, taken away. Lots of suspicion. Neighbors of Annie and Tommaso being canvassed. Searches going on around the neighborhood of Annie and Tommaso's home. Reporters were getting very, very curious. Then came one of the biggest bombshells in the entire case. On February 10th, that's 10 days after Nancy vanished, the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, released some absolutely terrifying images from Nancy Guthrie's Nest doorbell cam. I remember a friend of mine sending me the video and the image and saying, "Oh my God, Fargo." If you've seen the movie Fargo, you'll know what I mean. The terrifying image of the man with the 3-hole balaclava coming to kidnap someone's wife, right? It just looked like that. It felt so frightening. It showed the suspect, this intruder, right, fumbling outside of the front of Nancy's home. He appeared to be a man.
Okay, look at these gloves. Look at the gloves. There's either multiple layers of black gloves. They look like boxing gloves. They're so full of like, or maybe it's like material gloves with the black gloves over them, but it almost looks like when he puts his hand up, I mean, it's like so much
What was later
so much
identified
glove.
as a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker backpack. Those are sold by Walmart. Several images also appear to show that he had a firearm, crudely affixed in a holster right in the front, in a strange place where most people don't holster a gun.
Right by your dick. That's what it also said. That also screams not a dude to me. Because what guy is gonna holster a gun like right over your fucking penis? Like, one wrong fucking move, dude. Like,
image, something very curious appeared. What looked like the same person, but appearing without the backpack and without the gun and holster.
And without a face. And when fucking not noticing that there's no fucking face. Like, no, we're just not gonna point that out. This shit scares me. I'm like, oh my God. Can you imagine? Like that's what I was like. Obviously, I don't think that's the case because her blood was in the front of the house. But what if she was like picked up her phone, because like I said, the wash is out there. They didn't search very much, and I'm like, I don't think that, like, I think they would have found her in the 2 days they were searching, but it's very likely that she could have seen this on her phone, went out the back door, went through the back to go like in the wash and try to get away from this, and she could just be laying in the wash depending on how far back they looked. But that doesn't explain her blood on the front porch. So
immediately raised a lot of questions online about the sequence of the images and the timing and whether or not those images were even from the same date, right?
Maternity gloves. Like those big old ones that go up to their like elbows. Shit, that I remember when they came into like my first time giving birth, and they put on those big like fucking like elbow fucking gloves and like the fucking face mask, and I was like, what the fuck's about to happen? Like, I was so scared. I was so scared. Like, why do you have all that gear on? What the fuck is about to happen? It's like fucking Darth Vader came in to fucking deliver my baby. I was like, oh, I don't like this. I was like, I want a C-section. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Later reached out to and worked with Walmart and other retailers. Obviously, they were trying to isolate who may have bought that Ozark Trail hiker backpack, but by early March, the sheriff was saying even that backpack.
No. It could have been. It's not exclusively Walmart. That is not the backpack they showed in all of these like things. It's similar, but it's not the backpack. Like, I was looking online and I'm like, it doesn't have those like vents. Like the one they show has like a little like crease in the middle there. This one's more like a smooth back, but they didn't really have any at Walmart that really look like this. So it's probably like a season or two old. You know what I mean? Like, just because they have a backpack doesn't mean that it's a pretty full backpack. It doesn't mean that it's a new backpack. And like, I don't think that it's gray. It looks like a light color to me. I don't know how these night vision cameras work, but it's giving me like orange or something. It's not giving me like gray or black.
Maybe just not a direct purchase from the store itself.
When do you exist?
Weird. Like, who are you trying to target?
Really
with this?
deflating, because it just seemed like such a good lead. We have found so many people based on purchases and cameras on the, the checkout lines.
I wonder if like anyone like puts that video of the person outside of Nancy's through like an AI checker if it would come up AI at all. Because honestly, the person almost looks AI. It's something weird about their face. They're either wearing a silicone mask and it's a female posing as a man. Jesus Christ, Remy. He just jumped off the bed and it looked like a person. I don't know. It scared the shit out of me.
Didn't look like that was going to happen here.
Like, no one's here. No one's here. What was that?
Videos of the suspect were released. Investigators also raided a family, their car, their home in Rio Rico, about an hour south of Tucson. A man there was detained and questioned. His home was tossed and searched. Parents taken out, everybody taken out. And the operation was like massive. It was huge attention. We were all following it live, right? But he was later.
Indeed. But hold on. We're going to take a quick break. Remy has to go potty, so let me run him out front really quick. I mean, I'm assuming he jumped off from taking a nap and now he's sitting by the door. So we will be back in 2 minutes. We'll play some tape. All right, we're back. I just realized I made the wrong choice. I'm like, damn it, I took Remy outside. I'm like, it's so nice. Like, it says heat warning, but it's just so nice. And I'm like, I chose wrong. I should have ended the live and went to the pool. Oh, well, I've got to clean. They've been home all week from spring break, so I need to do some pregnancy mopping and shit. I've done like spot cleaning, but I haven't had like a day to like deep clean the house. I usually do that when they're at school, and I just been so active that I just haven't had a chance. So mom mowed it and just fucking clean. I didn't get to go to the pool. It's not fair. It's so nice. I just think get me like a lounge chair and just like lay by the fucking front door in the sun. Shit. It doesn't need to be fancy. I just want to lay in the sun.
Released. And the sheriff described him as a delivery person whose digital footprint had placed him, quote, in the area of Nancy's home.
AJ claims it's
more
not,
than one
but I
issue that
think
led
it is.
investigators to that man. And he fit the bill, right? He was about the same height, build, had the goatee that you could kind of see under the balaclava. But it would not be long before the sheriff said he was satisfied with this man's alibi. So no arrest. More importantly, no Nancy. But then just 2 days later, Feb 12, activity intensifies again. FBI agents are back at Nancy Guthrie's house overnight, right? And then in the morning, a white tent goes up over the front entrance at her front door.
That's when they blocked out the whole street. I was going to go down there that night, but that's when they closed the street down. And then the next morning they put up this tent and they were doing, I think they saw them bring in like, what they use this like measuring stick to like measure the height, and they go by that video that they had and they're measuring things up there to kind of get an estimate of the suspect's height. They were trying to hide it from the media, but they put the tent up and then they brought the stick in. So they kind of saw the measuring stick and knew what they were doing. Even though you couldn't see them doing it.
Guys carrying high resolution camera equipment and a forensic height board. All that is going into the white tent. And this is also the time that Michael Ruiz
pretty much gives it away.
When he had been on Nancy's front entrance videotaping, like Brian Enton had done, he witnessed small glass fragments on the ground at Nancy's front entrance just below where the doorbell cam had been. So did this support the information that my source told me that cameras had been smashed? Good question. Sheriff still won't confirm it. Eventually, that white tent came down a couple of hours. And those investigators disappeared, but there was something missing. The bracket on the front door that had once held that Nest cam, right? The Nest cam was gone, but the bracket had still been up there. And now suddenly it was gone too. So presumably taken by those investigators who were under the white tent. But weeks after Nancy had vanished. Why now did they decide to take that bracket? Why didn't that go the first day? If the homicide investigators were there and they saw blood at the front door, why didn't you process a lot more at that front door? And you saw that Nest camera was gone, glass fragments below. Maybe it was smashed off, but what the hell? Why wouldn't you take the bracket? And for the love of God, why wouldn't you take the half moon welcome mat? It's still there, to my best of my knowledge.
No, they took it.
Police made a very broad request of Nancy's neighbors. They asked for doorbell camera video and surveillance camera video from all of the neighbors.
But it took like 30 days plus for them to take that front doormat. And it wasn't until JLR was like, a lot of media had left and there was just not as many people out there. So, but the sheriffs were still out there. And, they're live and they're talking. And like, they're like, why is the floor mat? Why wouldn't they have taken that if there was blood? And, you think they would have taken the floor mat to preserve evidence. And then later that day they came and the sheriffs took the floor mat. So clearly they're paying attention to the streamers. And it's like, really? It took JLR like zooming in on the floor mat for you to like, oh yeah, we should have taken that. Like, oh, Lord.
Wide range of dates and going out a couple miles.
So people keep asking us, where do you film your podcast? We shoot
way too glitchy.
First, they asked for anything
I'm just gonna pay for
that could be seen on
streaming pretty much, I think.
January 11th, and anything that you may have witnessed with your own eyes. Anything weird January 11th? And we were all trying to figure out why January 11th.
If you would like to help me support my channel with paying for StreamYard, the Cash App is right along the bottom. This is my PayPal. But just kidding. I mean, I might as well mildly grift. Like,
get to that in a minute.
It's great to pay for StreamYard. Well, I don't want to pay for it.
And they asked
if you would like me to pay for
video, anything that might have been weird that they might see on their videos between January the 1st all the way through February the 2nd, like a whole month.
I think that's
and then they began to revisit all the neighbors' homes and ask more questions, looking beyond just the hours of the abduction itself. And then came the gloves. The story of the gloves, that one took days out of our lives. A pair of gloves was found roughly.
It did. Remember that one day I went into Jen's and I was like, well, the true crime community, like 50,000 people are currently watching JLR's channel and he's just focused on a black glove in the middle of a dry riverbank. And then like some drama was happening in her chat. And I was like, I'm going to go back and watch the glove. Like, something could happen. I'm going to go watch the glove. I'll be back. Like, right? And you preserve things from, we were just talking about the Kurt Cobain case. Like that case was totally not locked down. JonBenet Ramsey, totally not locked down. They let their friends and come back over to the house and traipse through the fucking house while they're looking for the little girl who was dead downstairs. I mean, that's a good way to cover evidence by having all your friends come back, you know? I don't know. Like, and the cops are just like, so, you know, they're not the only sheriff or police department that ever has dropped the ball, but it's, you know, unfortunate to continue to see it happen. It's frustrating. It's like all these other cases that you hear about them dropping the ball. You think you would really, and the unfortunate thing is the guy who quit for him once he became, you know, sheriff, he was like his deputy for a little while, just kind of like helping him get acquainted to the role, and then he was going to leave, but he couldn't even stand him so much to where he just quit. He was that much of a dick. And I mean, this guy was like a legitimate, like southwest, like fucking sheriff, like walking in with his boots and shit, like a real sheriff, making nanos look like a fucking border patrol agent and some shit. Like, joke.
2 miles from Nancy's home, side of the road. And this became one of the most important pieces of evidence in the case, it seemed at the time. And soon, investigators developed an unknown male DNA profile from those gloves. Why did we care about those gloves on the side of the road? Well, for one, they resembled the pair of gloves that was seen on the suspect in the doorbell footage. So that profile was put into CODIS. That's the National DNA Database.
A lot of fucking gloves. I think they found like 24, like around Tucson, like just black gloves. Like, isn't that weird? That's just weird in itself. Like, why is there so many gloves? Like, the fuck? Like, who's just throwing their gloves off? Like, are people just taking their gloves and throwing them? Is this like a bad, like personal, you know, like face masks were a thing and gloves back during COVID, and there's just gloves out there. Is there face masks? It's just very weird. It's like someone just went out there and started sprinkling gloves to like get. I said the whole case is weird. You know what I mean? It was just someone like glove here, glove there. Let's just start dropping some gloves. Like, even if that's the case, they didn't find out who the fuck was doing that. Like, what the fuck?
That basically looks at all offenders.
She's right. That's like 2 days
DNA,
of my life.
profiles have been uploaded so that anytime they commit a crime in the future, we can find them if we have their DNA. But on this case, sadly, there was no match. So whoever had been wearing those gloves and spraying his DNA into the fingers, etc., he wasn't the criminal. He wasn't a criminal according to CODIS, and he certainly wasn't the criminal that they were looking for at the Nancy Guthrie home.
There's just some like there's probably, there's probably a restaurant or something. I don't know. People just, they need to be smart about gloves. I mean, those are plastic. Why are you just throwing those? Like, it's just weird. Like, I could see if they were all in the same area, maybe some like restaurant worker comes out, smokes a cigarette, takes his gloves, puts them, they float away, and it just keeps happening. I don't know. It's not that windy out here, so it's not like they're gonna float away right now. There's like no wind, so these screen grabs are hilarious. They're positive.
Unknown male DNA inside the home as well, and the gloves didn't match that. So there were other reports, right, that had come in that a pair of gloves had been found inside Nancy Guthrie's house. And oh my God, that was kind of earth-shattering, but it was wrong, unfortunately. And Sheriff Nanos later had to clarify that that report was just wrong. There were no gloves found inside.
There's no gloves.
As for the DNA found inside the house, well, that was a little bit more tricky. It was male DNA that did not match with anyone inside Nancy's close circle. And that would take some time and determine that this is a mix. It's not really easy. It's kind of a partial profile, so it can't be sent to CODIS. CODIS only takes a full profile. And so here's what I'm thinking as we speak right now. They're still working on that partial profile, and perhaps they're working through the potential for genetic genealogy, investigative genetic genealogy, to find somebody out there, right? In the Koberger case, because here we are, day 47, the day they arrested Brian Koberger, they had a really shitty little profile from the snap on the K-bar knife sheath that was left behind at the crime scene. And they took that crappy little profile and they were able to build it out, right? CODIS wasn't any help. First of all, he wasn't a criminal, and not that we know of. And second of all, it was too small. It was like a really, really imperfect profile. But the Othram lab down in Texas was able to build that profile out, and investigative genetic genealogy led to Brian Koberger in 47 days. This is what I think might be going on now. Yeah, we're at 47 days, but patience is a virtue, I hope, in this case.
The fact that somebody that powerful, his career has been completely ruined, I think that's a real message to any.
The sheriff also said more than a dozen different gloves have been found in the area just around.
Still weird. It's like so weird.
Nancy's home, but that many of them likely belonged to searchers, which made a lot of people crazy because why would searchers be dropping their effing gloves? It just complicates the matters for people later on who go out searching, because there's been search after search with pauses and reignitions and all the rest. So very frustrating that the whole glove story in the Nancy Guthrie case, and it occupied several weeks of our attention, but ultimately it really just didn't lead anywhere. And then on Feb 13, blockbuster, late at night, the case erupted. Again, a major SWAT-style operation, Operation Number 2, right? This time, the home that was located at Orange Grove and First Avenue. The home was raided. This wasn't far from Nancy's home, right? As the crow flies, I think like about a mile or so. But multiple people were detained, including a mom in the home, and then her son, who was actually out driving a silver Range Rover to the nearby Culver's restaurant, where they grabbed him in the parking lot and cuffed him and questioned him in that parking lot. He was the target. A law enforcement told me that police had actually been surveilling him from the air, from a plane, for quite some time before the raid. But that at the moment he left his mom's home to go for food, they thought, perfect time, move in. And move in they did. Like, holy frioles, this thing was massive. There were dozens and dozens of SWAT cars and the bomb squad and like trucks and vehicles from the FBI and from the sheriff's department. Dozens and dozens of these vehicles. The entire neighborhood was shut down. People couldn't get into their homes or out. I think most people who were covering the story really believed this must be it. I mean, the amount of firepower they brought in really looked like they had something very dangerous and very, very real. And then they've got this guy in cuffs. They've got his silver Range Rover that he was driving, right? And they're photographing the Range Rover while he's in cuffs in another vehicle. And they're searching his mother's home, and they pulled her out to the neighbor's home. And something really weird happened that made all of us watching live think, oh my God, maybe there's a body in that Range Rover. They wouldn't let the press get anywhere near, but all the investigators were photographing every aspect of the silver Range Rover through the windows and all the rest. And it looked very dirty. The car looked very dirty. But they decided to pop the back, trunk. They decided to pop pop it open. But they didn't just do that. They actually put up privacy screens on either side so that the press could not see what was inside the vehicle when they opened the back hatch. And in all my days of doing this, privacy screens are typically for one thing, because there's a body and you want to offer dignity to the body. Yeah. And so many of us assumed, oh my God, there's a body in that Range Rover. This all has to do with the Nancy Guthrie case. This is horrifying. And then they put yellow paper over the license plate. They loaded that thing up on a flatbed truck. And they put it on the flatbed, and then the police towed it away. But this guy, my source said was targeted for this raid and for this questioning, being detained because he had a criminal background in trafficking, and that there was a
It also looks just like him underneath the freaking mask. I don't care, like if that is a real person and that's their real face, then it looks just like that guy. And it's so weird that they would move in on someone like this and then be a big nothing burger, like twice. And now they're at a point where we're like, basically they don't have a suspect. And it's like, what? Like, well, that she's gone, never coming back, if that's the case. And no one's ever going to know what. It's a very weird case, and no one's ever going to actually know what happened. We can speculate till the cows come home, but I don't think anyone's ever going to know exactly what happened to Nancy Guthrie. And the world's just going to keep on going like they did, just like when Natalie Wood fell into the fucking ocean, and they're like, like, accidents happen, even though she was definitely afraid of being on a
Range Rover
boat.
He's driving. They thought at the time it had something to do with the trafficking that he used to do, or still does, don't know. But it was shielded from view. We just never saw what was inside it.
Yes.
Right. And in the morning, for those who stayed up till 4 a.m. and couldn't stay up any longer, they wondered if they'd wake up to Nancy's case being solved. But that was not the case. In the morning, the news was really just disheartening, I guess. No arrests, no sign of Nancy. The raid was a bust. And weeks later, the people who were connected to that raid, the mom who had her house searched, the guy who was in the silver Range Rover who was yanked off and put in cuffs and thrown in a car and questioned, right? Detained.
I feel like that's like the last thing that really happened. Like everything after that and they were released has been pretty like, other than them leaving, like the media leaving and stuff like that, not really much happened after that. It was like that was everything that happened within like 2 weeks, the first couple of weeks, and then nothing. I think they realized that whatever lead they had or whatever idea they had, that they were wrong. I think they looked into all of it and their ideals or leads led to nothing. And at that point they were like, fuck, like we don't know who did this. We don't know where she's at, and maybe we should have let the FBI take over. I don't fucking know. In my opinion, yeah, they should have let the FBI take over.
Weeks later, the people who were connected to that raid, the mom whose house was raided, her son was picked up at the Culver's restaurant parking lot, his Range Rover towed off. They had been under so much public scrutiny. They had been publicly assailed online, people accusing them of doing awful things, even though there was absolutely no evidence or source information that said they were connected, other than there was a raid that produced nothing. Yeah, it was so bad that they publicly announced they had no link to Nancy Guthrie, that they, like us, felt horrible for her and wanted the best for her and wanted her to be found. They had no idea why the police landed on their doorstep and questioned them. By mid-February, the public learned that the investigation now had gone very high-tech. Detectives confirmed that they were using something called a signal sniffer in an effort to try to find Nancy's pacemaker, because a pacemaker will continue to send out a signal, right? It's basically reaching out for its connection. And Nancy's was connected to her iPhone. So when it gets separated, the pacemaker continues to look for the iPhone, sending out a hello and waiting for a handshake, So the signal sniffer was going out to see if it could send a handshake down to find that specific address of that pacemaker, because alive or dead, God forbid, but that pacemaker would still be taken. It would still be working for years. So it's something called Blue Fly, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi signal detection, the technology, and it's from Parsons Corporation. And that tech was used during helicopter and ground search operations beginning in early Feb. And it's good. Like it can detect electronic signals from like 800 to 1,000 feet away. So
I don't think she was anywhere near the house, so
looking for that handshake, sending out a hello and waiting for an answer from the pacemaker. To our knowledge, there's just been nothing, right? They didn't have any success. At the same time, FBI investigators were out there on foot, canvassing the local gun stores all around Tucson. And in some cases, they carried with them long lists of names and pictures. Some reports said up to 40 names and photographs. And the store owners and the workers in those gun stores reported to the press interviews saying that the agents had asked them if anybody with those names or resembling those photos had been in the store or had tried to purchase any weapons from the store. And sadly, none of those folks could say that they recognized any of the names. And as much as they wanted to help, the pictures and the names just didn't help, and they couldn't come up with any answers there. And what's frustrating here is that when the sheriff was asked about that, he said to the reporter who asked, well, that's a lie. Those agents haven't been out doing that in those gun stores. Well, it had already happened, and the press had already seen it happening. So, guffaw.
But I don't get that. What's with all the lying? Like, he's trying to he's not. It's just be honest. Like, you can give some things to the public, and it's like, no. Like, I don't think it was 40 suspects. I can't remember what it was. It was either people that had bought guns or something to that effect. I can't remember, but it wasn't like they had 40 suspects that were looking for, but they were definitely doing stuff at gun stores.
Laser focus into the story, right? Early in the investigation, the sheriff had publicly said that they had no evidence that Nancy had been taken south of the border. But then later, the federal law enforcement sources told reporters, several different reporters with several different sources, that the FBI had, in fact, been in contact with their Mexican counterparts. to ask about help in this investigation. So Brian Enton went across the border into Mexico, and he found that most folks in that Mexican border town of Nogales had not even heard of the case and had not even heard of Nancy Guthrie. It was just a whole
Most
other
people
world.
in
at the border.
Tucson haven't heard
And
about
the
it.
attorney general there publicly said their office had received no formal request to help and investigate this case. And no information suggested that Nancy was there. They said that they'd spoken to their federal authorities from that province in Mexico. They'd gone to the feds and asked about it. They said they'd had no discussions, from the provincial level with the American authorities. So maybe it was a question of the federal authorities in Mexico. Maybe they'd spoken with the federal authorities in the US, but it didn't seem that the provincial authorities were part of any of that. That was their message to us anyway. So even the Mexico angle of the Nancy Guthrie case became another example of the case having public contradictions and partial disclosures and a lot of uncertainty. In the first few weeks of this case, the sheriff announced that there were upwards of 400 different people involved in this investigation, both local and federal, right? Put them all together, whether they're foot patrols or administrators or, lab, whatever it is, there were over 400 people who were working on the case. And that there were more than 40,000 tips that had come in at one point, at the apex of this case. Both the FBI and the local sheriff, they had received more than 40,000 tips. But as the case moved into late February and early March, that posture changed and the numbers really fell away fast. The resources were refocused into a smaller but dedicated task force. We're told that was made up of about 5 Pima County homicide detectives and then a smattering of FBI agents.
So it went from 400 people to 5. Well, that's promising. But I'm not going to play the whole thing for fair use reasonings. I'm not trying to get struck by Ashley Banfield. So pretty much like I said, after the beginning of March, and even before that, it kind of got pretty quiet pretty quickly. They took the media, they made it so the media couldn't really be there. It just went on. It was like as soon as it hit 30 days, it was like media was like, okay, deuces. Which was still a long time to be out there with nothing happening. There was, like she explained, that was everything that happened. And then it just kind of teetered off really quickly. And the sheriffs released the house to the family. The family, like, almost seemed like they came by to say their goodbyes. We saw, like, Savannah and her sister and her brother-in-law walk out there. And then allegedly Nancy's car was driven off like a week or so ago, and I think it was JLR or someone said it looked like the son Cameron was driving the car off. So I think with seeing all these people coming by, like, they're probably going to sell the house, probably to have money to continue looking for their mom and continue not working. I don't know. It's really tragic. And, the only reason I even knew about it is because my best friend in LA told me about it. I didn't know about it because it was like, oh, everyone in the city of Tucson knows it's happening. No, I'm surprised no one in Nogales knew that it was happening. I don't think it's, there's not any billboards or anything. There's no missing person posters. There's nothing. I've seen more missing person posters from random people and pets out here than I haven't seen one for Nancy Guthrie. And it's kind of weird. It's like maybe someone needs to, it's kind of late now, but, sometimes people just don't realize that they saw something. So, I don't know. But that's it for my little update. I've been live for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So, you guys have a great rest of your day. Let's play some music on the way out. Amazon Music. Boo, 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 boo. It's like, I pretty much think that's it for now. I don't think, unless there's some huge break in the case, I don't see much reported, but at least, like, jailers covered it from home. Brian Enton's still covering it, so people are covering it. But I will see you guys very soon. What did I just do?